before we do, I want to give my well wishes to AEW wrestler Adam Cole for the injury he suffered. Sounded like it could be career threatening, even career ending for the former NXT champion, the former WWE superstar, as well as current AEW wrestler. Adam Cole was one of my favorites back in the day. I always thought he could have been a major star in WWE. Vince McMahon never saw it in him, and then he went to AEW and has had a pretty successful career over there. But well wishes to Adam Cole. And it's been a pretty bittersweet weekend in WWE because Saturday night's main event started off with a bang but ended with a thud. Let's get to the bang first. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, and I loved how these two men have not forgotten their vicious rivalry in 2020 over the summer and fall over the WWE Championship, and they are just throwing bombs. And whether you like it or not, the involvement of Joey Rowe and Logan Paul, the fact of the matter is, and maybe it's in the market they're in, I get it because they were in Nashville on Friday, they were in Atlanta obviously for SNME. But in my opinion, um, the crowd is really into this Joey Roll Logan Paul thing. Joey Roll is getting major reactions. Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre are doing their best to sell the hell out of it. You could tell Joey Roll has lost a lot of weight. You could tell he's even, giving the okay for Logan Paul to get personal with him when Logan Paul on Friday said that he may not have tattoos of his kids, but at least he has custody of his kid. I think this tag team match is going to be really fun and one of the best matches of the entire SummerSlam weekend. But let's get to how that match was set up because Randy Orton and Drew were throwing physical bombs early. Logan Paul would cause a distraction for Randy Orton early on, allowing Drew McIntyre to hit a Claymore, which Orton would kick out of. And then Joey Roll would end up shoving Logan Paul to the ground, distracting Drew McIntyre, allowing Randy Orton to pick Drew up. RKO 1, 2, 3 off the distraction. Randy Orton wins. Now, before this POE, I did not expect for Joey Roll and to be involved in a Randy Orton Drew McIntyre feud. I thought these two were going to sort of have their separate feud. I actually thought Joey Roll could fight Logan Paul when it was rumored it was going to be a tag team match. I thought maybe some mid carders would be involved, but the fact they have two high trained professionals in there, Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre, two of the best in the business, I actually think has only elevated this feud. Now, after the match, Logan Paul came in, he attacked Randy Orton, Joey Rowe came in, and just like he did Friday night on SmackDown, threw Logan Paul to the ground, just like he did on the outside earlier in the match. Logan Paul decided he had enough. He went for the right hook. Joey Rowe came back with a right hand. Massive pop from the crowd. And then Drew McIntyre would hit a Claymore on Joey Rowe. And Drew McIntyre, in the only fashion he can, say, "You mess with Drew McIntyre, you're going to pay. Don't get in my ring." And again, just like the Logan Paul John Cena tag team heel chicken heel shit thing made sense to me. I like the two hypocrites, Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul, working together. I think Drew McIntyre's board at work shirt is one of the best shirts WWE has came up with in years. Outside of the Miz, his shirt that said he had tiny balls. Again, I really think Drew and Logan are working together well. I think Drew clearly is having fun in his new role. I get it. A lot of people want to see Drew McIntyre go after the World Championship and face Cody Rhodes and finish this bloodline thing, which may not be a thing anymore. I get it. But anything Drew McIntyre touches turns to gold. Anything Randy Orton touches turns to gold. And again, crowd really hot for it. I'm all for it. Again, I thought they were going to go down the road of Drew McIntyre defeating Randy Orton. Drew hasn't won a match in months. And they're going to go down the road of Randy Orton not having the killer instinct anymore. Maybe they get back to it eventually. But at this point, it does seem like Orton and Joey Rowe are going to go over at SummerSlam. Then we get Solo Sikoa and his My Family Tree. His Solo defends the United States Championship against Jimmy Uso, which this match was better than it expected. Jimmy Uso came out of the gates early after Solo Sikoa told him he's not allowed in the family anymore. A little mid-ring trash talk. Jimmy would throw a lot of super kicks, He would eventually hit the super kick and the splash after kicking out of a spinning Solo. Solo would kick out of that, but then they would go for Solo Sikoa getting the upper hand again with a second spinning Solo. Solo would go for the cover. Jimmy would kick out. He'd go for a Samoan spike. Jimmy would duck underneath, hit the big boot, hit the splash, but then of course you see Tommy Tonga Loa getting involved. It would eventually lead to Jimmy Uso doing a splash on the outside of the My Family tree, but Solo Sikoa would pull him back inside the ring, and Tommy Tonga, that big ass, I guess Samoan, whatever you want to call him, would help Solo Sikoa use his leverage with his foot on the rope to help Solo retain the United States Championship. Afterwards, they would deliver another spike to Jimmy Uso, continue to beat him down until, you know what I mean? No gas, no brakes. Jacob Fatu with the massive pop comes down to the ring and takes out the My Family tree. And now it looks like Jacob Fatu and Jimmy Uso and whoever else they decide to pull into this will take on Solo Sikoa and his goons as the bloodline is officially dead. We now have My Family Tree, rest in peace, bloodline from 2020 to 2025. I do feel bad for Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa in this sense. Seems like they've never stopped feuding with each other since this whole Roman Reigns WrestleMania 40 thing with Cody Rhodes happened. Listen, Solo's a very good heel. I think he's starting to gain his momentum back. I think he's very good as the leader of a group. He's not as over as Jacob Fatu. But I think what made it awkward with Jacob Fatu once he entered the bloodlines, the crowd kept popping for Fatu when he was supposed to be a bad enforcer. Now that Fatu is the babyface, and now that Solo is the heel, Solo can get the proper heel treatment and really lean into that devious dark side of his. I forgot to mention that before this match, they were showing women in the crowd at of Evolution, and Naomi came out. She attacked Jade Cargill. They had a brawl down there at ringside, and Nick Aldis revealed that Bianca Belair was going to be the special guest referee. And before I get to that match at Evolution, which will be in the next video clip if you're listening on YouTube, um, I really do like the fact they added Bianca Belair to this match. It added a lot of spark for me. You guys know I was very critical of Evolution 2. I did not think it was happening, but this match really piqued my interest because I have been wanting Bianca Belair to be involved in this Naomi Jade Cargill story. I never thought it would make sense for just Naomi to attack Jade Cargill, and I'll talk about that more as we break down Evolution. Then we get to the saddest moment of the night that took all the air out of the building. Seth Rollins and LA Knight. They had a pretty good match up to that point. Obviously, Seth Rollins does the roll through, he does the moonsault, he lands on his knee, and you could tell immediately when he went to the corner that something was off because LA Knight went to go attack him, and the referee stopped him. You could tell he was standing around, he didn't know what to do. And then commentary didn't say anything, and then they brought out the doctor. And they don't bring out a doctor usually unless the doctor's in on the work, unless it is a work. The decision was eventually made to just have LA Knight barely give Seth Rollins a BFT. You could tell Rollins couldn't even land on the BFT. He sort of just fell down. LA Knight covers him 1, 2, 3, and sort of leaves the ring. And now we're in this situation that, I'm sure by the time you guys listen to this on Monday, we'll hear more concrete about Seth Rollins potentially. My best guess is that Seth Rollins does have a torn ACL, and there's a lot of speculation out there, right? Will WWE give Braun Breaker the briefcase? What's going to happen with Seth Rollins' group? I actually think the best case scenario moving forward is to actually have Seth Rollins keep the Money in the Bank briefcase. It's unbelievable that, maybe outside of Mr. Kennedy in 2007, who I think was dealing with a shoulder injury, and they had Edge take the briefcase off him when nobody knew that Mr. Kennedy was injured. And by the way, shout out to Adam Copeland for making his return at AEW All in Texas. But that's the only time really in Money in the Bank situation has been seen a superstar injured while they've had the briefcase that I could think of. I think the best case scenario would be you have a situation where, right, like I don't know who would be the world champion in the Royal Rumble, but I was thinking a scenario you would have would be something along the lines of like the World WWE champion is in the Royal Rumble. Seth Rollins sneaks up behind him some way, somehow with the Money in the Bank briefcase, cashes it in the Royal Rumble, throws him over the top rope, and wins the World Heavyweight Championship. And I think that you can keep this sort of heel stable going. I don't think necessarily it's Rollins comes back and Braun Breaker turns on him and we get immediately to the Braun Breaker babyface turn. Like maybe CM Punk is the world champion at this point, but maybe he doesn't have a match of the Royal Rumble. Maybe he just decides to enter the Royal Rumble so he can pick his opponent at WrestleMania. And bam, Rollins catches him Money in the Bank on Punk, throws him over the top rope, and we get Rollins at CM Punk at WrestleMania for the World Championship. That's a scenario. I think that, if anything to me, you strap a rocket on Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, this tag team. You give them the World Tag Team Championships, which I know the Judgment Day event right now. Well, let's face it, ever since they split the Undisputed Tag Team titles at WrestleMania 40, the WWE Tag Team Championships on Friday night have been booked way better than the World Tag Team Championships on Monday night. The best World Tag Team title reign so far was Awesome Truth. And that was their first reign, and they had a little bit of a reign, and Judgment Day beat them on a random episode of Raw. New Day's reign was terrible, shockingly, because that heel turn was so well done. They did not follow up on it. The War Raiders World Tag Team title run was god awful. Judgment Day's World Tag Team title run so far has been nothing. So to me, you give it to Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed, and you let them run with it. But all of the air was sucked out of the building. It seemed like the timing was off for the rest of the event. To me, it seemed like they sent Goldberg and Gunther out early, which they did their best to celebrate Goldberg throughout the night. Listen, he's a big name. The crowd is all for him. It's nostalgia. It's the oh my god, I have to see this man one last time because he's one of the most dominant forces in the history of professional wrestling. All of that I get. Um, but with that in mind, I'm just going to be honest. There's a lot of people on the internet that said they did their best with Goldberg. I disagree. I thought this match was terrible. You know, um, they did the spot where Goldberg hit the spear on Gunther. Then he hit the jackhammer, and because you want to protect the jackhammer, there was no referee there. Gunther then quickly puts the sleeper hold on him. That's it. We can all move on with our lives. Goldberg had his retirement match. It was what it was. He wanted to do it with Gunther. He put Gunther over. And then they randomly cut to commercial with 3 minutes left in the show. And they came back on for, Goldberg to say his last 30 seconds goodbye, basically. And then they cut to the end of the show again. It was very strange. It was a very AEW-esque sloppy shop, if you ask me. It was one of the worst things I've seen in WWE in years. It's one of the things that took me back to 2019 WWE at Hell in a Cell when fans were chanting for AEW during the Seth Rollins Fiend match. That's what it kind of felt like. I'll be honest with you, it was bad. It was Vince-like booking. It was Goldberg versus the Fiend all over again, except for the right result. I did not enjoy this. You could say it was Goldberg Undertaker in Saudi Arabia too. I did not enjoy this. I want Gunther to move on to a Real World Championship reign because I think Gunther is one of the best professional wrestlers, if not the best professional wrestler on the entire planet. I think it's impossible for Gunther to have a terrible match unless it's against a 58-year-old man with a bad knee and a bad hip who can't move. Which I do think SummerSlam is going to be exciting. I'm excited to see Gunther versus CM Punk potentially for the World Heavyweight Championship. I think Cody Rhodes and John Cena, I think there's a lot of story to be told on the bone there, contrary to people's beliefs. I'm excited for Randy Orton and Joey Rover, Drew McIntyre, and Logan Paul. Tiffany Stratton and Jake Argo, I think we're going to get the involvement of Naomi. We're going to get the involvement potentially of Bianca Belair. So there's a lot of pieces that still need to fall into. Um, I know WWE and by virtue TKO, let's be honest with you, because TKO apparently wants to have a WWE event now. Every weekend there is an AEW pay-per-view because they want to monopolize this shit, which I get it, but they are overpricing their fans, right? You have NXT, you have Saturday Night's Main Event, you have Evolution, you have Raw on Monday, you have fans that are going to watch AEW. It's just too much wrestling. Um, and I think the state of wrestling right now is in a very weird state. Both companies have done some stories spectacularly. I think the Hangman Adam Page build in AEW to give him the big final boss win, the way they did Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. Great job, AEW. Some other stories have been awful. But as we get into the biggest party of the SummerSlam, I have expectations that SummerSlam is going to be better than WrestleMania this year. The WrestleMania 41 card always felt a little bit off ever since The Rock had to involve himself and they did the Cody Rhodes John Cena heel turn. But I think Gunther and CM Punk are going to absolutely tear the house down. Saturday night's main event, I thought was A plus show for the first hour. I thought the second half it was like a C minus show. The Seth Rollins injury really took, you know, all the steam out of the entire weekend for me because the plans they have on Raw, and we know the plans they had in the women's division with Liv Morgan on Raw, and now the top heel in the men's division and the top heel in the women's division are both out on Monday nights. What does that mean going forward? We'll have to find out. Like that clip from the Brands World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brands World podcast right here on YouTube.